I get to help more than one agent. What I do right now, I'm able to help the whole state of Texas technically and help them educate them so that they can educate their customers regarding the products that we offer, specifically workers' comp. And having your insurance in order, having your workers' compensation, having your general liability will cover that for you so you won't have to spend that. When you have workers' compensation and somebody is abusing the benefit because they're spending too much time at home doing nothing and they're not getting released or whatever it may be, the workers' compensation policy, the claims adjuster, the workers' compensation investigation unit will find that out and we'll go, if it's time, they get released and they get back to work. My name is Lilly Delhoyo. I'm with Winston Crum Insurance, and this is the Working Class Roundup.
Saddle up. Punch that clock. Let's ride. This is the working class roundup. Spurs, truck, boots up, pants rub. Clock in, hold on, don't fold up. We get paid, get drained, still show up. From the plant yard dust to the highway rust. Raise that cup, let's sound off. This is the working class roundup.
Yeehaw! Welcome to the Working Class Roundup. This is Cowboy Jody Collins, your host. And with me today, I've got a very, very special guest. She's one of the carrier partners for Amex Commercial. So, Lilly, thank you for joining me today. This is awesome. This is a rare perspective.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Jody.
Wonderful, wonderful. So tell me, because in the insurance industry, there's a lot of different jobs, right? There's being an agent, there's an adjuster, there's actuaries, all these fun. You chose to be a wholesaler. Why did you choose to be a wholesaler?
So I get to help more than one agent. With what I do right now, I'm able to help the whole state of Texas technically and help them educate them so that they can educate their customers regarding the products that we offer, specifically workers' comp.
There we go. That was actually a segue beautifully to my next question: is what products do you feature? Now, there's two of them that you guys really feature. At least we leverage the most with you, right?
Yes,
Which is workers'
absolutely.
comp and then
General liability.
thank you, general liability. So let's talk about workers' comp because that's a hot button here in Texas, right? Texas is fiercely independent, right? Everything's bigger than Texas, and you don't tell a Texan what to do. And one of the things that you don't tell them to do is you have to have workers' comp. So the rule is that if you have 49 or less employees, you're legally not required to carry workers' comp. But that doesn't mean that the liability goes away, right? The responsibility if something happens on your watch, you're still liable for that, right?
Absolutely. So as smart business owners normally think about responsibility, not just revenue. A lot of business owners are constantly thinking revenue only, right? But there's two responsibilities that business owners have, and that is to their customers, which is your general liability, to your employees, which everybody tends to forget, but that's probably one of the biggest one, and that's your workers' comp. And lastly, for your products and operations, right?
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, in Texas, workers' comp is not required, but it's important because it can take somebody out of business.
It can, it can. I was talking to somebody the other day and just an electrician, but they did most of the labor. They were the company, right? They had an assistant, but they were the labor. And I asked them the question. I said, "Well, what would happen hypothetically? Imagine you're working on the job site, you're digging the trench for your electrical conduit, and you slip and you fall, you break your leg. And now you can't work for 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks until do the lights stay on? Do you still got a paycheck coming in to keep the business running?" And it made him pause because he said, "Well, I really never thought about it like that." Because we always think, well, we're indestructible. Hey, I got a mission. I'm working, right? So what are some of the benefits of the workers' comp policy in Texas? Again, because again, every other state says you have to have it, but Texas is unique. What are some of the key benefits of having that policy in place? What does it help?
Some of the key benefits will be it'll pay for the bills of the employee or the business owner if they are included in the policy when they get hurt. It'll also pay for their lost wages, and it'll pay for basic lost wages, legal defense if they're sued or something like that. So workers' comp does have the responsibility to defend. So if they do get in a lawsuit, workers' compensation will pay for that.
And see, that could be a tricky landscape to navigate, right? Because again, in order to have a lawsuit, it's basically neglect. Did somebody neglect to do something that caused your injury, right? That's typically how this thing works. And if you're working on somebody's job site and you slip, was it because you just were, a clumsy guy and you slipped, or was there something that led to it? Like, was there a drip that was happening for the last 6 months that should have been fixed but wasn't, and they called you in and you worked there, but now you slipped on that? Where does the fault lie? Is it your workers' comp? Is it their work? But if you don't have it, you're kind of stuck, right? Because if the courts determine that it wasn't the person that hired you, right? If they're not responsible for that, now you've got to foot the bill, and you don't have anything. You have no revenue coming in. You don't have anything to protect you on that, right?
Contractors specifically, when they're on a job site, for example, somebody's building a home, right? And you're doing tract housing, which is the cookie cutter homes, the developments where they're building so many different houses at the same time. You have more than one contractor on site all the time. Somebody gets hurt, they're gonna pull in everybody and they're gonna file lawsuits against everybody that's there. They're gonna pull in your concrete guy, they're gonna pull in your drywall guy, your carpentry guy, which is doing the framing or any of that. If they were involved in that job site, they're gonna get sued if somebody slipped and tripped over a cable that was misplaced or there was a ladder that fell on somebody or something like that.
So let me make sure I get this for the working class nation, because they got to know this, right? So if I'm working as a contractor and my part of the job, right, the project, if you will, is at the very very beginning. I'm there in the first 3 weeks of the job, but let's say in week 12 and 14, something happens on that job site. Even though my part was done a long time ago, I could still get looped into that lawsuit
Yes,
because I'm
sir.
on the project.
Potentially, yes.
Potentially, yeah. See, and that's so important for people to know, is that because again, you could think, well, I didn't do anything, right? All my stuff was cleared out. I was done. I was on to the next project, right? But there's still a matter of what's called legal fees. You still have to represent
Correct.
yourself in that court of law, and sometimes that's pretty pricey, right?
They always are very pricey. And having your insurance in order, having your workers' compensation, having your general liability will cover that for you so you won't have to spend that.
See, that's important. I really like that, because again, it's about protection, right? Both multiple different directions, right? It's not just from what you can see, but it's also the things that you can't see, right? So the other thing about workers' comp that I love is it's almost like a double-edged sword, right? So we all want to trust our employees that I'm doing what's in my best interest of my employees, and when they get hurt on the job or if they get injured and they can't work, that as soon as they're able to work, they're going to come back to work. But that's not always the case. Is that
I mean, yes, absolutely. We workers tend to enjoy sitting at home watching TV and still receiving that paycheck, right? So, with that being said, when you have workers' compensation and somebody is abusing the benefit because they're spending too much time at home doing nothing and they're not getting released or whatever it may be, the workers' compensation policy, the claims adjuster, the workers' compensation investigation unit will find that out. And we'll go and we'll make sure that if it's time, that they get released and they get back to work. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna take evidence of whatever it may be. Let's say they're not, I don't know, let's say you have a gardener and they have an employee that's hurt, and all of a sudden he's out there cleaning his yard, but he can't work, but he's doing the same thing he would be doing at work and we will catch that when we know injuries. We know how long it should take to heal. So we're going to know.
so? Let me ask you, because I'm sure this question comes up. How do you know? How do you know how long it takes?
Data, claims history, medical history.
Yeah, insurance is the data capital of the world, right?
Absolutely.
It's a law of large numbers. It's in on the exams when an insurance agent or adjuster takes their licensing test. There's a question about the law of large numbers. It's a law. It's like gravity. It pulls things down. The law of large numbers gives us behaviors, right? That you can actually price products off of. You can actually, dedicate a scale of how long somebody will be out from an injury, because there's so many data points that they can say, yeah, if you have a broken leg, it's this many weeks to this many weeks to recoup. There could be complications, right? But there are more data points for those complications, right? I remember once that I had some work done on my knee, and so they knew how long I'd be out. But then I had a what is it, the blood clot, right? Well, that added a little bit more time because now I'm on a little bit different treatment and different medications. So they adjusted my workers' comp, knowing that okay, he's going to be out a little bit longer because of these complications. But all those things are factored in. As long as doctors are communicating with their notes, right? You know exactly when they're coming back. That's awesome. That's so cool though, right? But that's the point of insurance though, right?
It is.
taking the uncertain and unknown and putting a stamp of, yeah, okay, we got you covered.
It's a promise, basically, that when you need it, it'll be there.
I love that. That's great. We're talking to Lilly with Frank Crum. I can say that, right? Frank Crum. I can everybody say. So Frank Crum, she's talking to us. She's a wholesaler for Frank Crum, one of our great partners at Amax Commercial. We're gonna take a few moments for some partner break and announcements, and we'll be right back to the show. Hang on in there.
Hey there, Working Class Nation. Jonathan with Leafy Link, your marketing geek in green. Are you a business owner who's managing your own social media but not getting the results, or not even finding the time to capture and edit that content? I know it's a tedious task, but hey, that's something that my team and I can definitely help you with. If you're interested in someone managing your content for social media, please click on the description below and I'll help you out. Again, my name is Jonathan with Leafy Link, your marketing geek in green.
Hey, Working Class Nation. This is Cowboy Jody Collins with Amax Commercial. I want to take a moment here and tell you about something. It shocked me. 52% of the businesses out there don't have all the insurance they need to protect their assets. Whether it's commercial auto, whether it's general liability, workers' comp, or something of the likes of excess liability or umbrellas. Those are all insurance policies designed to protect you and your business. We want to be that expert to help guide you. Find the solution that works for your budget. Click on the link below. Give us a call. We're here to help you out. Welcome back to the Working Class Roundup. I'm Cowboy Jody Collins here with my guest, Lilly from Frank Crum. Hey, all right. So we're on the flip side of the show now. We're going to talk about the things that scare people.
Okay.
We're going to talk about the story of why you need insurance.
Absolutely.
Why you need protection. So we were on the train of the workers' comp. So let's stay with that one, because that one to me is the most scary thing, because the state says you don't have to have it, which is like permission. No, you can be irresponsible. You don't have to worry about that. So give me a scenario where if they would only have listened to the agent, they'd be in a better position.
So I have seen businesses that actually go out of business because of a workers' comp claim and lawsuit.
Right.
I have seen employees that have gotten hurt and they don't have workers' comp, right? You have your John Doe landscaping and gardening service. I'm going to go back to that because it's one of the ones that usually tends to not want the workers' comp more often.
Okay.
And it's one of those class codes or services that think they don't need it. We had a customer that had their GL policy with us, their general liability policy with us, and it was a landscaping guy. They were doing some rock type of landscaping, and somebody hurt themselves with the rock. They hurt themselves so bad that one of the rocks fell on them, they tripped over, and they ended up landing weird. So they actually ended up breaking their back, their vertebrae thingy. The insured didn't have the workers' comp coverage, and they filed it against the general liability. Obviously, general liability does not cover that. That is what covers you for your customers, not your employees.
Right.
So when that happens, they go out and he says, okay, fine, I'll pay for your medical bills. And he starts paying for the medical bills. But then who's going to pay for his paycheck? So the employee started asking for money for paycheck. And the employer said, hey, I'm already paying your medical bills. I don't think I can afford to pay your paycheck anymore. So what happens next? He gets sued. And because he is liable for all these things that we had to deny a claim on because it was a different type of coverage, which was the general liability versus the workers' comp, he ended up out of business. He ended up bankrupt because the bills were so high that he couldn't afford them anymore.
Wow. Yeah, people don't really think about. Again, and I understand why they don't think about bad things. Okay, I get it. It's a bad thing. You don't want to put that into your head. But you mentioned landscapers. Perfect example, right? When we're talking about general liability, which you guys help us write, landscapers are like, I'm just mowing lawns. It's not, I'm mowing the lawn and picking up grass. It's not that big of a deal. But then when you remind them, and I my tactic is I try to ask questions. Okay, do you mow lawns during times when school children are walking to the bus stop or walking to school? And of course, they're going to say, well, yes, it's the morning. And I'm like, okay, what do you think would happen if a rock got caught up in that lawnmower, right? And you've seen what they've done to windows, but instead of striking a window, it struck a child, a third grader, in the forehead. What do you think those parents would do?
They're going to come after them.
Well, exactly. They're not going to just sit and, oh, it was an accident. Things happen. No. They're going to be like, what are you doing mowing the lawn when kids are walking by, right? And if you're your crew, they got their headphones on, they've got their sun hats on, so they don't, again, they may not be aware of what's going on, but now you're liable. Your company is liable, and it could put you out of business, right?
Absolutely.
Same thing goes on the flip side with the employees, because general liability covers all the other people around your business. It doesn't cover your employees. So if you're asking them to move something heavy, if you're asking them to do something up in the air, even a step or two, I've seen cases where somebody just run a step ladder, right, trying to plug something in, they fall over
Yeah.
and they broke their hip
Yeah.
from 3 feet.
From 3 feet.
Exactly. You don't know how somebody's body is going to handle a 3-foot fall onto tile, right? Um,
I've seen extreme cases too. Unfortunately, there was a tire shop that had, not a tire shop, but the quick lube shop type things.
okay,
where
yeah. The oil changes, yeah.
Yeah, where you drive in the car, there's a pit at the bottom, and they go down there and they do everything at the bottom, right? They were closing, and one of their employees, instead, they heard the air line that was still on. And instead of going around the bay to turn it off, he reached over from the bay. I don't know if you know this, but in the middle of those bays, there is a metal stick, very, very pointy metal stick in there. He fell over that and unfortunately passed on the spot. It, it was terrible pictures. It was a terrible situation. This business owner did have workers' compensation insurance, and this was a death claim, guys. It covered a death claim. What does it mean? Not only does it pay for all their funeral expenses, but it actually paid on a yearly basis their annual salary with a 3% increase until retirement age.
Ah,
It does, yes. Covered as well. Absolutely. And sometimes you don't even think about it, right? Like you just mentioned, this family thought about it, but not in the way that they're going to be covered. They actually went after the employer and filed a lawsuit against them. So this policy covered their funeral, covered their medical expenses from picking them up and all the cleanup, everything. It covered the lawsuit expenses, and then it covered that annual salary for 30 years. It was a 30-some-year-old that unfortunately passed.
see, and so okay, so let me digress and go back a minute. So the number one reason why somebody passes on the coverage, right? Because it's not required, but they pass on it is because of the cost. What do you say to somebody when they bring up the cost fact, the how much the insurance costs?
I asked them how much they can afford should they have an accident on the job site or be responsible for it. How much of it will you be able to pay out of pocket? I have another example, a roofer in Houston, Texas. He fell off of a ladder, not even the roof, a ladder as he was coming down. He hurt himself so bad that medical expenses were $450,000 and he was out of the job for 9 months. Workers' compensation covered those medical expenses for a little over $450,000
Wow.
and 9 months of his salary.
See that, yeah. See, and that's the funny thing. The more the working class get educated on what these policies actually do, the more value you see in them. And that's what that's why I love being an insurance agent. That's why you
Absolutely.
do what you do and help all those agents out there, right? As well. So
100%.
hey, Lily, thanks for stopping by today. This has been really educational, really helpful. I really appreciate it. And working class, if you have any questions specifically for Lily, we'll drop her contact information below. The cool thing is if you'd like to have one of the policies that Lily mentioned, you can contact us at Amax Commercial. Me and my posse will help you out with that, your business needs. So link down in the description below, click on it or give us a call and we'll take care of your needs. Thank you again, Lily. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jody.
Hey, happy sales, happy trails. We'll see you on the next one.